And on the line with us, Professor William Black, Professor of Economics and Law at University of Missouri, Kansas City, author of The Best Way to Rob a Bank is to Own One. Professor Black is a former bank regulator who led investigations into the S&L crisis back in the 80s during the Reagan era. Bill, welcome back to the program. It's been too long.
It has. Good to be back.
Thank you. And I should add, the website where people can easily find a lot of your writings is neweconomicperspectives.org, and they can tweet you at William K. Black, and it's just all spelled the way you would think. Bill, Equifax has released, or it got hacked, apparently, and apparently it was a hack that lasted over a couple of months, and several hundred million Americans' credit records got released. I mean, there aren't even several hundred million Americans in the labor force. What's the story here?
So it's only 143 million.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I stand corrected. But isn't the labor force 115 or 120 million?
Yeah, but more people can have credit cards that are in the labor force.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, spouses and older kids and stuff like that.
Yes, it's the second largest, but it's considered to be the worst in terms of the quality of the information that was turned over, because the largest was Yahoo, but that didn't have as much commercially valuable information to the dark web. So what did
Equifax have? I mean, the obvious stuff: your name, your address, your social security number. Perhaps the names of the institutions that you bank with. Did they have things like your mother's maiden name? I mean, the typical stuff that's used to authenticate you to financial institutions, the kind of things that if somebody was trying to steal your identity that they would use to open a line of credit or a credit card in your name. What kind of information did Equifax have?
Okay, so first, a note of caution. One of the problems with all of this, and it is an overall summary, Equifax is acting like someone decided to make a cartoon version of a Marxist critique of capitalism, except that this one was authored by Equifax's management. So they're like cartoonish evil and incompetent and everything else in the world. So one of the things is they haven't told us exactly what happened. We don't know really what the nature of the breach of their security was, and we have very poor information other than the general fact that, yes, it includes this commercially valuable information. Now, Equifax, most of us know, of course, as a credit rating entity.
Right, one of the big three, along with Aspirian and Trans, whatever it is.
Right, but it has a number of other lines, and one of them is exactly what you were asking about. It basically sells these recovery services. And as part of the recovery service, if you forget your password or the sites crash and things like that, that's why they have those questions that you provide
security questions
answers to. That's correct. And so, yes, those were apparently also some of the information turned over. But again, I emphasize they haven't given us the critical information that we need. The bad guys know. And it will doubtless be all over the hacker community exactly how they got in. But the folks who need to know, the security analysts of honest companies and people like us who might be victims, we don't know.
What about the FBI?
Well, the FBI is going to doubtless start an investigation, but this is the overall insanity of the system. This is what the word massive was designed to describe, 145 million.
Right.
And they don't even tell you that you've been a victim.
Yeah.
So first, the penetration apparently began in mid-May and lasted for something like 2.5 months until late July before they even discovered that they were continuously being hacked.
You know, it's amazing, Bill. I have 3 credit cards. I have a personal credit card that I just use for personal expenses, and then I have 2 businesses, one to do with the radio show and one to do with my writing. And so I have a credit card for each of those two businesses for business expenses that I don't use that much, but they're there. And all three cards between May and last month, all three cards were used fraudulently. None of them were out of my possession. I got fraud alerts on all three, and they had to issue new credit cards to me. Could it be that that's a result of this hack?
Again, they've had some of the information since mid-May, they being the hackers.
Right.
Then they turn around and resell it to others typically, and sometimes use it themselves as well as selling it to others. The bosses say that they didn't discover it till late July.
Right after they'd sold all their stock, right?
Right.
Or a bunch of their stock, yeah.
3 senior executives had sold stock. The largest sales, nearly $1 million, by the chief financial officer, who they are claiming was not told about the breach. Now, the chief financial officer is typically the number 3 person in the entire organization.
Right.
So if they had the second largest breach in history, the most important and destructive breach in history, and didn't tell their CFO about it, that A, is insane. And B, back to the comic book theme, the CFO's name is the perfect comic book villain. For a CFO, it's Gamble.
Oh, jeez. Oh, geez. Okay, then to rub salt in our wounds, the company came out and said, well, Equifax came out and said, well, yeah, we'll tell you if your name was in our database and got hacked, but before we do that, we want you to sign this thing that says that you won't ever sue us. In fact, you're giving up your, was it the 6th Amendment or the 7th Amendment? I forget which one is the right to any issue over $10, you are entitled to a trial by a jury of your peers in a civil case, and that you have to waive your constitutional right to a trial to sue or to participate in class action. Do I have that right?
Well, pretty close. So, but the first thing they do, as we've discussed, is somebody engages in a lot of insider trading. Now, here I'm not talking about just the 3 executives who may have done so. Their option trading goes crazy right at the time period where they inform senior management that there's been a breach, right? So that's almost certainly insider trading, and we don't know by who. The next thing, though, they do is they wait. They don't warn us, the public, at all.
Right.
They sit on this for weeks in violation of a number of state statutes and just let our information be exposed. And so the critical thing we haven't discussed is, the New York Times treats this as Equifax customers. But, of course, we're not customers, right? We don't sign an agreement that allows them to gather information on us and create a credit rating. They simply do that. They do that with other folks. So they don't think of us as customers.
Right, we're their product, actually.
That's right, except that they said, hey, and this must have come from the absolute highest ranks of Equifax after they got done with the insider trading, which was, hey, this is an opportunity to make them customers.
Right.
We won't inform them, what would any decent person do? Hi, I screwed up. I want to tell you that, and I want to tell you that your information has been breached, right? Confidential information, so you can take steps, and I'm going to, on my own, take steps to protect you, and I'm going to bear the cost of that. None of that happened in Equifax. And by the way, let's back up. This isn't the first breach at Equifax. This is the 3rd major breach in 2 years.
Whoa.
So they were on notice that their systems were completely inadequate to protect folks. And you'll love this line. They boasted when they finally, over a month after they discovered it, told people about the overall breach. They boasted that their core systems had not been breached. So God only knows what's in their core, because it ain't us, the 145 million people.
Yeah, that may well be the business information that's there, or maybe even just their information.
Information on their own privacy.
Right. We're talking to Bill Black, professor of economics and law at the University of Missouri, Kansas City, author of The Best Way to Rob a Bank is to Own One. Bill, we just have a minute or two left here. What should people do if they think that their credit has been breached? I mean, the first thing I did is I went to the Equifax website and I saw that click here and waive your right to sue. And I just said, screw that. And I closed the tab, and I haven't, so I've been, what do you do?
A, there's no good answer. B, you should do what you should do anyway. Look at your credit card slips really carefully. Right. I gather that in your case, they had their automatic algorithms alert you to probable fraud.
Yeah, in each one of those 3 cases, I got a text message on my phone.
And that's often done by good companies, but sometimes they miss it. Yeah. And so you want to really look at those things. You can put holds on. You can put fraud.
The hold is only good for a week or 2, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it's worse than that. They also rolled that out. There's a new article in the Wall Street Journal today explaining that they didn't even use proper numbers, randomized numbers for that. They made them sequential.
Oh, geez.
So this is, as I say, as if you tried to deliberately do the nastiest muckraking hit job on a private firm, except it isn't. It's all done by them. So, yes, they tried to get you to waive. When they were attacked by the federal regulators and by Senator Warren.
And in social media.
Then they started to do other bad things.
Right, and pretty soon they're going to want to charge you, I'm predicting, to fix your credit.
Oh, no, they're already doing that.
Oh, they're already doing that, huh? What a surprise. Bill Black. Bill, it's great talking with you. We got to get you on more frequently. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you. Take care.